The first time I saw my own land guarded like a crime scene, I didn't feel like an owner. I felt like a suspect. Police cruisers idled at the edge of the ridge, and a line of people in bright white hazmat suits marched across my inherited acres like astronauts landing on the moon. And standing right there beside them, smiling like she'd planned this moment for weeks, was the HOA president, holding a clipboard like it was a badge and a weapon at the same time. Mr. Harris, this property is, unfortunately, worthless. You're going to want us to help you get rid of it. My name's Jake Harris, and I'd only been the owner for about 12 hours when Cedar Creek Estates HOA tried to turn my 600 acres into their private cash machine. It started the day I got the call that my Uncle Tom had passed. He was the kind of man who lived quiet on purpose. No social media, no neighborhood barbecues, no HOA newsletters. Just a cabin on a ridge and a whole lot of land nobody talked about. When the lawyer said 600 acres, I actually laughed. Like, who inherits that? I drove out the next morning expecting silence and pine trees and maybe closure. What I got was a chorus of electronic beeps and the kind of tension you can taste in the air. I pulled up to the gate line and saw orange flags stabbed into the ground like someone was marking graves. A black SUV with a polished HOA logo sat parked like it owned the place. And then I saw the sheriff's cruiser. That's when my stomach dropped, because in my experience, cops don't show up to welcome you to your inheritance. They show up when something's wrong. A woman stepped forward before I even shut my truck door. Perfect hair, crisp blazer, pearl earrings that caught the sunlight like tiny daggers. She walked right up to me with that practiced smile people wear when they're about to deliver bad news they secretly enjoy. Jake Harris. Yeah, I'm Cheryl. I just wanted to personally greet you and make sure you understand the situation. I glanced past her at the hazmat crew. The situation being, why there are astronauts on my land. She gave a tiny laugh like I'd told a joke at a dinner party. Oh, that. Just a routine environmental assessment, purely for safety. This ridge has a history. A history of what? She lifted her clipboard like it was evidence. Contamination concerns. Potentially hazardous. The kind of thing that turns into a nightmare of taxes and liability. Honestly, most people would be grateful for an easy out. An easy out. The HOA can purchase the property. We can assume the burden. You'll be reimbursed a symbolic amount and you walk away without trouble. Something cold slid down my spine. If it's worthless, why do you have people in hazmat suits touching it? For half a second, just half her eyes flickered. The smile stayed, but her jaw tightened. Because we care. We protect our community. And for your own safety, I strongly advise you not to go down there. Not please. Not be careful. I advise. Like she had authority over my feet on my own dirt. I took a step forward anyway, and the sheriff's voice cut in. Jake, just don't interfere right now. I stared at him. Interfere with what? People trespassing on my property. She leaned in like she was sharing a secret. It's better to cooperate. If you fight us, it gets expensive. Then she turned heels, clicking, and walked back toward her SUV like she'd already won. I stood there watching those hazmat suits sweep my ridge, and all I could think was Uncle Tom didn't die and leave me a worthless disaster. Something didn't add up. That night I went to the cabin. It smelled like old wood and cold air and loneliness. Uncle Tom's boots were still by the door. A chipped mug sat in the sink like he'd be back any minute. And on the kitchen table, stacked neatly like he'd been waiting for me, were papers. Tax assessments, letters, notices. I flipped through them and felt my pulse start to pound. The property taxes had been climbing for years. Not normal climbing. Weird aggressive were trying to squeeze you climbing. And at the bottom of one notice I saw a line that made my blood go hot. The HOA had been petitioning for oversight due to community safety concerns. Oversight. On land that wasn't even in their neighborhood boundaries. I found my uncle's journal in a drawer. His handwriting was messy, restless. The kind you write when you're looking over your shoulder. One entry made me stop breathing for a second. They came again. Night. Flashlights like fireflies. Cheryl thinks I don't know. I know. I sat down hard on the edge of his couch. My uncle wasn't paranoid. He was isolated, yeah, but not crazy. And if Cheryl had been coming out here before he died, then the Hazmat show wasn't about safety. It was about control. The next morning, one of the HOA board members showed up at my cabin like a cowardly messenger, too white smile, hands jammed in his pockets. The kind of guy who says policy like it's a religion. "Hey, just checking in. Cheryl asked me to make sure you got the HOA packet." "I didn't ask for a packet. I asked why your people are crawling around my land. It's just standard, environmental stuff. You know how it is." I stepped closer. "Actually, I don't. Because you don't wear hazmat suits to test standard stuff. So tell me the truth." He swallowed, and in that moment the wind kicked up, slapped a loose folder against his leg, and papers spilled across my porch. He froze like a deer. I bent down and picked one up. It wasn't an HOA packet. It was a Report Slick Professional stamped with a company logo, Apex Geotherm Analytics. And right there in bold letters, Subsurface Thermal Survey Ridge Sector C. I held it up. "This isn't contamination testing. This is a resource survey." His face went pale. I don't know what that is." "Yeah, you do." His mouth opened closed. And then he did exactly what guilty people do when the script breaks. He turned and bolted off my porch like his legs were on fire. And that's when the HOA turned mean. Not polite mean, not passive-aggressive. Mean. That afternoon, my phone lit up with emails and posts from the HOA community board screenshots sent by neighbors who suddenly felt worried about me. Hazard warning, unsafe land, do not approach. Then the real punch. Residents are advised to avoid contact with Mr. Harris until compliance is confirmed. Like I was contagious, like I was the problem. That night I stared at the ceiling in my uncle's cabin and felt something I hate admitting. Doubt. What if I was wrong? What if Uncle Tom really had something dangerous out there? What if those beeping devices weren't a scam, and I was the idiot standing in front of a real hazard? And then the other thought, the heavy one: I didn't ask for this fight. I didn't even ask for this land. I could sell it. Take whatever symbolic amount Cheryl dangled. Walk away. Sleep again. I actually got up and reached for my phone to call the lawyer. And then I looked at my uncle's journal on the table. I flipped to an entry dated only a few months before he died. "If anything happens to me, don't let them take it. Not because of money. Because they lied. They will keep lying." I sat back down, hands shaking. That's when I heard gravel crunch outside. Headlights swept across the cabin wall. A cruiser pulled up slow and deliberate. I opened the door and the sheriff stood there, tired eyes, serious face. No small talk. "I can't tell you much, but don't start digging. Don't go poking around, and don't sign anything they give you." I stared at him. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I've seen people get crushed by paperwork and fear. And because something about this stinks." He slid a business card into my hand. "Call her. Rachel King, land and environmental attorney. She doesn't like bullies." Then he left like he didn't want anyone seeing him there. Rachel didn't waste time when I called. "They're trying to isolate you, make you look dangerous, make you look unstable. Then they'll ask for temporary oversight to protect the community. Temporary turns permanent. Permanent turns sale. This is a playbook. So what do? You stop reacting emotionally. You start collecting evidence. That same afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "Come to the old sawmill. Alone. MS." I almost deleted it. It smelled like a setup, but something in my gut said, this wasn't Cheryl. The sawmill was a skeleton of a building, all rust and splintered wood, and standing inside it, half hidden in shadow, was a man with hollow eyes and a face that looked like it hadn't slept in years. "Jake." "Yeah. I'm Mark Sullivan." The name hit me. I'd seen it on old HOA meeting minutes in Uncle Tom's papers. I was the treasurer. I quit. I tried to disappear. But Cheryl's gotten worse. He held out a USB drive like it weighed 100 pounds. "They're not looking for contamination. They're looking for heat. A geothermal pocket under your ridge. Clean energy, massive payout. Apex Geotherm isn't a safety contractor. It's a scouting team." My throat tightened. "Then why the hazmat suits?" "Because it looks official. It scares people. It keeps you from stepping too close while they map your land." I felt my anger sharpen into something colder. And my uncle, he looked down. They raised his taxes, filed safety complaints, tried to get him to sign over access rights. He refused. He documented everything. And Cheryl hated him for it. He handed me folded papers, emails, invoices, meeting notes. And there's audio on the USB. Cheryl, saying it out loud. How to break you. I took it and my hands didn't feel like mine. Why help me? Because I'm tired of being part of it. And because if Cheryl wins, she'll do it again. To someone else. The HOA called an emergency meeting 2 days later. The community clubhouse was packed, neighbors whispering, some staring at me like I was radioactive, others just curious, because HOA drama is basically suburbia's version of live theater. Cheryl stood at the front, chin lifted like a queen. A giant poster behind her read, Community Safety Initiative. As you all know, Mr. Harris has inherited land with unresolved environmental concerns. Unfortunately, he has refused to cooperate with our safety protocols. This puts all of us at risk. She held up a stack of papers like she was holding the truth. Therefore, the board recommends immediate oversight of Ridge Sector C along with penalties for non-compliance. Once oversight is established, we can take steps to resolve the situation. Then she looked right at me. If you sign tonight, we can spare you the legal mess. My hands were sweating. My heart was pounding. For a second, that old doubt tried to crawl back in. What if they still win? What if the room believes her? Then I remembered my uncle's words. They will keep lying. So I stood up slow. What agency declared my land a hazard? She didn't blink. We have assessments. No. What agency? A few people murmured. She tightened her smile. We're acting out of caution. Cool. Then show the permit for Apex Geotherm Analytics to conduct a subsurface thermal survey on my property. The room went quiet like someone pulled the plug on a speaker. I have no idea what you're talking about. I held up the report that fell on my porch. Because this isn't caution, this is prospecting. Her voice snapped sharp. That document is fabricated. Is it? Rachel stood up beside me, calm as a blade. If it's fabricated, then you won't mind if the sheriff reviews the invoices, the emails, and the audio recordings we've collected. Cheryl's face stiffened. Audio recordings. The doors at the back opened and Sheriff Reyes walked in, 2 deputies behind him. The room erupted into whispers. This is a private HOA matter, Cheryl said, trying to laugh. Not anymore, Reyes said. We've received evidence of trespass, fraud, and coercion. Cheryl's eyes darted, scanning faces, searching for control. Then I hit play. Her voice filled the clubhouse clear as day. We label it hazard. We isolate. He signs or he bleeds. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Cheryl lunged forward. "Turn that off. That's illegal." What's illegal, Rachel said, is using fear to extort land access. What's illegal is falsifying hazard claims. What's illegal is bringing a private contractor onto someone's property under false pretenses. A chair scraped. Dylan stood up, face pale, eyes wet. She told us to do it. Cheryl told us to call it contamination so he'd sell. I didn't want to, but she said we'd protect the community and we'd all benefit. Cheryl spun on him like a snake. "Dylan, sit down." "No," he shouted. "You said Tom was in the way. You said Jake would fold if we scared him enough." Now the room wasn't whispering anymore. People were shouting, demanding answers. Cheryl's control, the thing she wore like perfume, was evaporating in real time. Sheriff Reyes stepped forward, calm in the chaos. "Cheryl Whitman, I need you to come with us." Her smile came back for a second, but it was the kind of smile you see right before someone breaks. "This is ridiculous. You can't do this. I run this community." "Not today, you don't." Her eyes locked onto mine as the deputies moved in. Her voice dropped, the sweetness gone. "You think you won. You have no idea what's under that ridge." I stared back, steady. "Maybe, but I know what's not under it anymore." She opened her mouth like she had one last threat, one last manipulation. Then the deputies were already escorting her toward the door. People parted not out of respect, out of disgust. The moment that door clicked shut behind her, the fear lifted off my chest like I'd been carrying a car for days. And the lesson is simple. Bullies don't stop because you beg they stop when you drag their lies into the light.